In this video, we're going to do some more with screen colors in Monogame. We're going to create a new project. And it's going to be a Monogame Windows project. We're going to call it MoodLight. And this is based on a book called Learn Programming Now with XNA Game Studio by Rob Miles. And what it does is it just changes the light on the screen. Okay, I'm going to pause the video here for a second and get rid of all these unnecessary comments. Okay, the comments are gone, and what I want to do first is I want to set the screen to a random color. We've done this before. If I want to use random number generator, I have to put using system in here. And it's grayed out because I'm not using it right now, but once I declare a variable here, so that will declare and initialize a new random number generator for me. And I also need a color for my background, which I'm going to call BackColor. And I need to initialize it to a random value. So I'm going to get a random value for the red, one for the green, one for the blue. So BackColor.r equals, and that's a byte. So I need to do a little bit of typecasting here. I need to get a random number dot next. That will give me an integer up to 256, but not including 256. And convert that into a byte. Then I need to do the same thing with my other two colors. So I'm going to do a little cutting and pasting here. And the only thing I need to change is the green component and the blue component. Okay, so if I run this right now, actually I'll get cornflower blue because I need to change this as well. So let's put BackColor in here. We'll run it. And we'll get a random color on the screen. Okay, if I run it again, I'll get a different color. Now, what I want to do here is the MoodLight name comes from the fact that we can slowly change the colors. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly change the red color. And all of the changes you make are going to be in your update method. And then those changes will be displayed in your draw method. What happens is 60 times a second, Monogame executes update followed by draw, update, draw, update, draw, update, draw 60 times a second. Okay, so this is where I put my update logic, and my update logic for right now is simply going to be to add 1 to the red component. So my BackColor.r plus plus. So plus plus is the increment operator. Now let's go ahead and run this again. And what we'll see is it will gradually increase the red component. So it was mostly blue, and as I add red to it, I get more of a purple. Go back to blue, get more purple, and you'll notice about every 4 seconds, I'm getting a big jump in the color here. And what happens is, when I get up to 255 for R and add 1 onto it, it goes back to 0. There's not enough room for 256 in there, so it goes back to the number 0. So at 60 ticks per second, and if I'm doing 256 numbers, if I divide 60 in there about every little over 4 seconds, I'm going to see a jump in the color. Now, I'm going to do a BackColor.g plus plus. I'm going to do a BackColor.b plus plus, and it will increase all of them at the same rate. Because they're starting at random values, they're not all going to jump at the same time. So every 4.2 seconds or so, I'm going to get 3 jumps. And the numbers must have started out fairly close together because the jumps are all occurring within a few ticks of one another, it seems like. So So this is our basic, simple MoodLight program. What we would like to do, though, is we would like to make sure that it doesn't do the big jumps. So what I want to do is I want to take the value of R and gradually increase it. But when it gets to 255, I want to start gradually decreasing it until it goes down to 0. And then just keep going back and forth between 0 and 255. So half of the time I'm going to be counting up with the red, half the time I'm going to be counting down with the red. And so I'm going to need some Boolean variables up here to keep track of which direction I'm going. So I'm going to have a variable called red counting up. I'm going to initialize it to true. And down here, I want to do this. If red counting up, and that's a Boolean, so I don't need to check to see if it's equal to true or anything. If it's true, then if the value of this is true, then the value of the Boolean is true, and it will execute whatever comes next. And if that's not true, BackColor.R minus minus. Okay? So I will count up whenever this is true. If it's not true, I will count down. Now, I don't have any place in here where I'm checking to see if it should be changed from counting up to counting down. So before I do the counting up and counting down, I need to check the value, and this will be another if statement. If BackColor.R is equal to 255, then I'm at the top. And what I need to do is I need to set BackColor, sorry, not BackColor, I need to set red counting up equal to false. Don't count up anymore. Okay. And if I do this, let's go ahead and run it. And we will see the red increase. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to comment these out for right now, so we can focus a little more just on what the red is doing. So let's go ahead and run this. We'll still get a random starting color. And it will increase the red. The green and the blue are staying the same, so it's going to get more and more red. And it gets up to the most red, and then starts counting down. Then it's a big jump. And what happens is, there's going to be another big jump here. What happens is, we're not turning it around once it gets down to 0. So we need to check on the other end, too. We need another if statement. If BackColor.R is equal to 0, then I want to start counting back up again. Okay. So this, I'm going to get rid of the blank line here. These 4 lines go together, and that takes care of red. Now you will see it smoothly increase the red and then smoothly decrease the red, and just keep going back and forth every 4 seconds or so. So we're getting more and more and more red and less red, and now it looks like we're getting more red again, and that's about the max. And now we're losing it, and so on. If I set, this will be much more obvious here, if I just set these equal to the green and the blue equal to 0 to begin with, and I'll set the red equal to 0 at the beginning as well. Got my slashes down here. So now we should see a black screen working its way up to maximum red and then back down to minimum red, which will be black again, and just going back and forth from black to red and red to black and so on forever. So it's going to get down to 0 red, which would be black about right there, and then it starts increasing again. Okay, so that's doing what we want it to do. Now the only thing we need to do is we need to change it for the green and the blue as well. The code is going to be almost exactly the same. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in down here. Now be careful when you do copy and paste, because you got to remember to change everything. If I only change part of it, then I've just messed up my program. So here I want this to be a G. 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 So I'll take care of the green. But my Boolean variable is still red counting up. I need to change that to green counting up, but I better declare it first, otherwise the editor is going to give me a little bit of grief about having non-declared variables. So green. Okay, so now let's go down here and change this to green. Green. Okay. Then down here for the last one, I want to do the same thing for blue, which is B. Okay, so double checking, all my references to the color here are G. All of my references to the Boolean are green, counting up. Down here, all my references to the color component are B, and the Boolean is blue, counting up. Now I'm going to leave these at 0. And if I leave them at 0, I'm going to start with black. And whenever the red, green, and blue quantities are equal, we get shades of gray, starting with very dark gray on the low end, or black, and working all the way up to white on the high end. So we should see a screen that goes from black in shades of gray up to white after about 4 seconds, and then back down to complete black. And every 4 seconds or so, it's just going to go smoothly back and forth. Okay. Well, shades of gray aren't all that interesting, so what we're going to do now is we are going to start off with random values. And now let's go ahead and run it. And this should be much better. So we don't see any big jumps here. You can almost kind of guess the green is increasing here. Looks like the blue is increasing here, and the red is increasing here. Okay. And if I run it again, I'll get completely different colors because I'm starting with completely different values for red, green, and blue. Let's take a look at one more thing here. Let's go down here and take a look at the if statement. The if statement has a Boolean. Most if statements in most programming languages look pretty much the same. One thing that's required in C# is that the Boolean expression here be in parentheses. We're coming from Python. Parentheses were not required in Python, but a colon was on the end. There's no colon on the end of this. We don't use indentation to indicate control structures in C#. It's just the text of the program itself. But we do indentation to make it easier for the reader to understand the control structure. I could just as easily put this up here, and it still works. That would not work in Python, but it does work in C# because C# doesn't use indentation for anything except making things easier for a reader to read. What has to go in here is a Boolean. This is just a simple Boolean with equals. Again, it's a double equal sign for comparison because we do a single equal sign for the assignment operator in C#. And down here, this is simply a Boolean variable. The only thing that has to be inside of the parentheses is something that evaluates to true or false. If I have a Boolean variable, the only two possible values for a Boolean variable are true and false. And so you can just put the variable there. It would be also legal to say equals true, but that's redundant. Okay, if you think it makes more sense to write it that way, go ahead and do it. But both of these are equivalent. So that's an introduction to if statements and Booleans in C#.